Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and with Next Fest kicking off yet again, I wanted to dive in, as usual, with some of my recommendations for games you might want to try out. As always, my focus is on strategic and tactical games, whether that's in the form of 4X, GSG, RTS, city building, so on and so forth, and, worth noting, the games I'm highlighting in today's video are the ones I've already been able to play in one way, shape, or form, so that might explain some notable exclusions from the start of Next Fest, which means I'll probably do a follow-up video afterwards once I've had a chance to check out more demos. If you have any recommendations of your own, let me know in the comments, and if you find something you like in this video, make sure you check it out during Next Fest and wishlist the game on Steam as a way to support the developers. Otherwise, without any more time to waste on an intro, and with timestamps down below, let's begin. Millennia is a 4X game with some very fresh approaches to familiar concepts, including a major difference in how it approaches progress through history. Like most historical 4X games, you can choose to play as one of a handful of civilizations, and you can mix and match your choice with a variety of starting buffs to pair. Then, beginning with a single city, you proceed to recruit units, explore the map, build buildings and tile improvements, expand your territorial gains. A familiar foundation, sure, but as you unlock additional technology, you'll slowly progress through the historical ages, and that's where things get interesting. The demo will show you as much too, as once you complete the Bronze Age, you'll find yourself with three options laid out in front of you. One seems historically appropriate, but the Age of Blood and the Age of Heroes are unlocked by performing certain actions in the current age and then picking them as the way forward to unlock unique age-specific units, mechanics, and conditions, like the Age of Blood pitting everyone into a state of total war. Being the first to progress through the ages influences how the other nations must follow, but rushing through the ages means leaving powerful early tech behind that could facilitate your success in future ages. That's because you have to complete a certain amount of technological researches before you can choose which age to proceed to. It's a fine balance, and it's a completely game-changing concept, fundamentally tweaking an otherwise familiar mechanic. Just like that, a historical game has introduced fantastical and even sci-fi aspects. The Age of Ether with its steampunk approach to technology, the Age of Utopia with its underwater cities and loading screens showing, for example, a modern military coming across a group of aliens. It feels like every playthrough can be wildly different. Another set of systems that I think are particularly compelling have to do with goods and production chains. Most 4X games have you acquiring resources like food and production from various resources on the map tiles, or buildings in your cities. Millennia takes this up a notch by introducing goods with different values assigned to those resources, and on top of that, you can get more out of a resource by using it to produce other goods which might provide different resources. So, for example, fish provides more food than rice does, influencing what you might want to focus on. Meanwhile, olives don't provide food at all, providing wealth instead. But if you build a press as a tile improvement, you can turn olives into olive oil, which is worth more food than even fish, and it provides wealth too. Build a kitchen instead, and now the olives are turned into delicacies, providing even more food and some luxury too, luxury being a type of need that helps cities grow as you go through the ages. On which note, cities don't just grow when they have enough food. As you progress, you'll need habitation, luxury, sanitation, and much more besides. There are a ton of unique ideas in Millennia, and I haven't even touched on how you can customize your nation over time as you unlock the different domains, legacies, governments, and more. You should check out my deep dive video that I have on the channel. I'll link it under the eye at the top right corner of the screen right now, and you'll find it in the description as well. But apart from that, you should also definitely give Millennia a try during Next Fest to get a hands-on understanding of why it's one of my most anticipated games of the year. Stormgate feels like the proper return of the classic RTS. The devs are folks who worked on Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2, among other RTSs that fans of those games would have grown up with, and it shows in quite a few ways. For one, the blend of fantasy and sci-fi brings us three very distinct factions, two of which we've been able to get quite familiar with as arguably Terran and Zerg analogs in the Human Vanguard and the Demonic Infernal Host, respectively. The latter, in fact, even features creep-like mechanics, though with different buffs, of course. There's two main resources, there's base building, there's timing your upgrades, there's timing your expansions, there's snappy control of units with interesting designs, synergies, and of course, asymmetry between the factions too. Stormgate has all the hallmarks of a great RTS, and there's not much more to say here. If you're a fan of the classics, if you're Looking for something to fill that decades-long void? And if you've missed out on all the closed betas and alpha testing, Next Fest is a great time to dive in and give it a try. The full game is going to have a narrative component to it too, told through a series of single-player missions, but naturally, it's going to be the multiplayer scene that's the biggest draw here, and based on everything we've seen so far and the fact that the game's going to be free to play with purchasing focused around cosmetics and narrative expansions only, Stormgate looks like it's going to hit all the right notes while reducing the barrier to entry, but still needing a high level of skill for mastery. Breachway is a very exciting upcoming sci-fi deck builder that puts you in charge of a ship, its crew, and its path through space as you seek out a mysterious signal. Heads up before I go on, outside of the channel, I am affiliated with the publisher Hooded Horse. Though that doesn't impact the content on the channel, I wanted to mention that off the bat here in the interest of transparency. For more details on that affiliation, you can watch the video I've linked in the description down below. Now, with that said, let's turn our attention back to the game. As a deck builder, Breachway is all about building and finding synergies in your deck as you face off against a variety of enemy ships that are fighting back using decks of their own, but there's some really interesting mechanics at play here that make things a bit more complicated than just picking and choosing cards. First off, when you pick a ship, with an Next Fest demo giving you a small selection to choose from, you'll also get some starting equipment and associated starting allegiances to each of the factions in the world. These faction allegiances make a huge difference when it comes time to navigate the map, as good and bad relations will determine the reactions you get as you travel from point to point, with each node under control of one of the different factions, or perhaps providing an opportunity to engage with some event or another. Your starting equipment, meanwhile, determines what cards you start with. Each piece of equipment, whether it's a weapon, a shield generator, or some other kind of utility equipment, provides you with a certain number of cards, with more available for unlock after each successful battle. Each piece of equipment is thematically different, resulting in different types of effects and synergies for the cards they provide. Black weapons, for example, are all about applying shredding status effects on enemy ships to bolster the impact of follow-up black weapon attacks. Lasers, meanwhile, are great for focus firing specific enemy equipment to disable enemy offensive and defensive capabilities. There's missiles, railguns, PDCs, and much more, and you're not tied to any one or the other. You can very much mix and match. Each card also comes with an associated cost to play and a cooldown timer, so not only will you need to manage per turn resource production and consumption, but you'll also want to consider how long a card remains in cooldown before being added back into the draw pile. And as far as the size of your hand is concerned, the more crew you have, the more cards you can have on hand at the start of a new turn. You're encouraged then to explore the massive map to try to get additional equipment, cards, and crew to maximize your capabilities before facing off against the zone's boss and hopefully coming out the other end. Breachway is punchy with beautiful visual and sound design, and it's one of the few deck builders that can hold my attention for prolonged periods of time, even as it's kicking me to the curb. Whether you're a fan of deck builders or not, I can highly recommend checking out Breachway. Synergy is a very interesting city building game that you may have seen me cover before. From its art style to its ecological focus to a rather mysterious plotline, it has some great stuff going for it in my eyes. The Next Fest demo will give you a chance to play through the early parts of the game, introducing you to all the fascinating new concepts this game has to offer, as it has you leading your band of survivors on an unforgiving planet after their old oasis dried out. The game does a really magnificent job building systems and mechanics around its core ecological focus. Sure, weather plays an important role as you go through various cycles that can impart various status effects, and sure, planning for the future is a key part of your process, but things go well beyond that here. Resources can, for example, be gathered in a few different ways. Each type of flora offers different kinds of resources, and the way you choose to gather from them determines what you get and at what cost. Harvesting will completely destroy the source while providing all of its resources at once. Picking might specifically provide the fruit that grows on it, while pruning might provide its branches. Again, each plant provides different things with different actions, and it can only do so once per cycle. So, properly picking and choosing what happens to what plant at what time becomes an important concern. But before you can even begin to do so, you'll need to build field labs to study these plants and understand what they offer and if they're safe or dangerous to pick and harvest. Plants are marked as invasive if that applies, and based on what I've seen before and what I've played so far, it seems as though you might be able to maintain and grow plants yourself, providing the right conditions for optimal growth, but that's not in the demo, so I digress. These are all just an interesting series of mechanics that work so nicely together that I was completely enthralled, and I can't wait to see how much further Synergy pushes this concept. That's not all though. The city building and citizen management also has additional layers of depth as you're building distribution networks, managing multi-step production chains for things as simple as water or as complex as culture, and the needs of your people expand beyond the tangible too, with citizens asking for shade and culture and socialization and more. You'll establish districts for various purposes and level them up with good city planning. You'll perform research down 2 different tech trees centered around knowledge and culture, and you'll go out with expedition parties to find what else is out there on this strange, desolate planet. Synergy has always had my attention, but after having played it for a bit, I definitely can't wait to see more of it in action, and I can highly recommend checking it out during Next Fest. Shapez 2 is the 3D sequel to Shapez, and if you're a fan of automation and factory games, you'll want to check this one out. The demo will give you a brief tour of the various mechanics and about 2 hours or so of playtime, but the full game boasts a sandbox mode and a fairly long campaign as well. Whether that includes a narrative aspect or not is yet to be seen, but what I can say for sure is that the demo shows a solid foundation for a very, very complex factory game. The premise is simple. You're running a shape factory and you need to deliver various shapes to what I guess can only be described as a black hole. After extracting base shapes from specific spots on the map, the grid-based construction focuses on the use of conveyor belts and various processing stages that can do a multitude of things each. Some rotate the source shape 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, some split them in half, only preserving one half, asking you to think about the direction a shape arrives in so it cuts properly, and others will stack multiple layers of shapes together, asking you to use multiple layers of conveyor belts to deliver these shapes in the right facing, with the right layer height, to the right places. It's actually pretty impressive how something as rudimentary as shapes can be made this complex. And there's an extra layer of puzzle here that most factory games don't have. You're not just making end products that are the results of combining 2 or 3 specific things at various destinations where they're processed, but instead you're having to consider the journey to said processing points as well. Oh, I need a circular quadrant at the bottom right, and then 3 square quadrants bottom left and across the top, and then another, circle as a second layer? Okay, well, you have to figure out how to make sure the right pieces are in the right spot before they get rotated, cut, dismantled, and combined into the final product. You don't just care about bringing, say, coal and iron ore to the same place to make steel. Instead, you have to think about how the different pieces are oriented in different steps of the process too, taking them through each of those steps. It's a fascinating added layer that makes a noticeable difference, and I definitely think you should check out Shapez 2 during Next Fest. There you have it, folks, a handful of great games that I think you should absolutely play during Next Fest. If you found something interesting here, consider hitting the like button below. And again, these recommendations are based on games that I was able to play ahead of time, so I'll likely be doing a follow-up video after Next Fest is over to cover additional great games that might otherwise have slipped under your radar. If you have any recommendations of your own, drop them in the comments below, and if you're interested in keeping up with games in these genres with news, previews, guides, and more, don't hesitate to subscribe. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big ol' thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.